What's up everyone, it's Tony with JRNY Crypto. Welcome back to another video. So in this one, we're going to be talking about the current crypto market dip with Bitcoin and Ethereum down around 7% right now. I do want to talk about this. This was expected, but there is some very important stuff happening in the news with the Bitcoin spot ETF, FTX dumping a lot of Bitcoin, other things happening on the back end here. And I do want to talk about some bullish stuff throughout 2024 as well, stuff that is happening that I don't see a lot of people talking about. So I do want to quickly talk about the price of Bitcoin before we jump into all the news and important stuff happening behind the scenes. So we did get a correction here, which was expected. Buy the rumor, sell the news. Pretty much happens with everything in the crypto space. So small correction here, which was expected with how much Bitcoin has ran. As you guys can see back here, we had Bitcoin around $25,000 to $28,000 for quite a while. So we did get that huge pump with the start of the speculation for the spot ETF here. This was towards the end of 23. You can see it went from around $27,000 to $35,000 here, and then steady climb up towards the actual Bitcoin spot ETF approvals, which did peak out here around $49,000. So pretty close to $50,000. Pretty huge run up. That's pretty much a 2x from where it was just a few months ago, if you think about that. So a decent correction here is healthy and expected, especially with so many people that did buy just to have that quick flip. But the Bitcoin spot ETF is very bullish for the long term. So I'm actually seeing a lot of people talk about Bitcoin retesting $20,000, even $15,000. I really don't see that happening at this point. Maybe if the stock market was doing really bad, the markets in general, if there was a lot of fear overall, then I could see something like this happening. But I do think it would take a black swan event for Bitcoin to retest $20,000 at this point, leading up to the Bitcoin halving, Fed rate cuts, all these different things that are happening in 24 that are bullish for cryptocurrency, as well as the stock market just doing well. Generally, the markets follow somewhat. So with these bullish things coming up, I don't see Bitcoin retesting $20,000, but I do want to talk about where I do see it possibly testing. So keep in mind, a black swan event is possible at any point if we do get another massive COVID breakout or something. So that was a black swan event we did have before the last Bitcoin halving. Shortly before that, we are leading up to the next one right now that is coming up in April. So Bitcoin did crash over 50% in one day, the entire market pretty much, but a quick recovery leading into the Bitcoin halving. And then, of course, institutions started buying. It started getting very bullish with massive inflation and everything. And Bitcoin did enter a bull market after that. So something like that did happen. It would be temporary. So I do think we're going to have huge support here around $37,000 right here. So I do think possibly retesting that, even $35,000 as well here. That would be like the next support line here. So very likely Bitcoin does drop into this area temporarily and is testing that. May temporarily drop below that depending on some bad news. So overall, Bitcoin has done pretty well since the bottom, which was pretty much around $15,000 here when FTX did collapse. So even with that happening and the chain reaction it had, Bitcoin still held strong support, quickly recovering after that, having higher lows each time. You can see a correction here where it went up to around 25,000, corrected back to 20,000, and then moving up to around 30,000, correcting it to 25,000, and then moving up from there. Going into the speculation of the Bitcoin spot ETF, and now we've had the correction for that. So at some point we're going to find a new high low here, which I think is going to be around $35,000. And then again, we're going to see something similar. It's going to pump to maybe 50 or 60,000, have another correction down to 40 or 45,000, something like that. But at some point it is going to get very bullish overall with all this stuff happening in 2024. So overall, I do think this is just a temporary correction and things will continue upwards throughout 2024. So it is good to have a long-term outlook on things as well. That's how I've always invested in this space. If you're a short-term investor and you're checking the prices constantly, you're constantly affected by the small dips and the movement of the markets. You're going to be extremely stressed out, and this is going to affect you in a much more negative way than what the profit is going to be worth. So I do recommend having a good strategy and having a good outlook on the space overall, knowing what you want to do, having that good solid entry and exit strategy in place is going to help you be more successful overall, and just manage your stress and anxiety over this stuff as well, which is also very important. You don't want to ruin your health over any investment or anything related to money in general. So something that has been happening too, causing a lot of selling pressure, is Grayscale dumping a ton of Bitcoin, and part of this is FTX. So Grayscale dumped 20,000 Bitcoin, and here is why. So Grayscale has seen ongoing daily outflows of Bitcoin from its trust shortly before US market open. Despite the outflows, Grayscale's revenue remains significantly higher than competitors at around $381 million annually due to its high 2.5% fee. So since Grayscale has such high revenue, they have little incentive to lower the fees, but we'll see over time if they see these outflows to continue and less revenue coming in as a result of that, they probably will lower fees at some point, but that does mean outflows are going to continue to be higher. Another reason here is FTX selling their Bitcoin, and they'll probably start selling their other altcoins as well. They have a huge amount of Solana, Ethereum, and other top altcoins. So throughout the next bull market, they probably will be selling chunks of that here and there, which will affect the market since it is such a large amount overall. But as long as things are pretty bullish and we do see retail interest continuing to rise overall, steady rise, as long as we see that, that will counter the sell-offs no matter how much they're selling. But right now, since we're seeing trend levels slightly declined since the Bitcoin spot ETF approval, on top of the selling pressure, that is why the markets are correcting in general. But very likely retail interest will be on a steady rise throughout 2024 at some point, possibly going parabolic if there's some extremely bullish news. We can see that happen last time here. We had the steady rise in October of 2020, did have a correction here after it peaked end of 2020, and then it went parabolic. Retail interest just went crazy at the beginning of 2021 and pretty much stayed that way, having a few different spikes based on different massive events, then entering the bear market, retail interest dropping off gradually. But in general, I do think retail interest is extremely likely to be on a steady rise, meaning more demand in the markets, and on top of the Bitcoin halving, which actually cuts the amount of Bitcoin being generated per day for Bitcoin mining, meaning less supply coming into the markets. You have increased demand while shrinking supply. While retail is actually buying up the available supply, that just means everything's going to be going up in general overall. But that is on a mid to long-term outlook, not on a short-term outlook. So you do have to keep that in mind as well. So FTX sells $1 billion worth of Grayscale's GBTC since its Bitcoin ETF approval, and their selling will likely continue throughout 2024. That's just something we're going to have to deal with. That's something I saw brought up about Solana as well. So Solana was just around $20 back in September, October, and ran up to a peak of $121, a 600% return in a short period of time. Now having a correction, which is expected with such a huge run up. It's around $81 right now, but I have seen a few people comment about that. With such a huge run up, no one's really talking about FTX owning such a massive amount of SOL. So at some point, they're going to start selling that in pieces. Of course, the higher the prices of Solana, the less they have to sell, and the longer it's going to take as well. So it probably would be a good thing if they do start selling pieces while the price is lower. But as long as retail interest in general continues on a steady uptrend and a lot of projects continue building on Solana and it continues doing well, that will likely do well in the long term. It just needs that retail interest rising to offset the selling pressure of FTX and other people in massive profit as well. So just this morning, Grayscale sent another 660 million of Bitcoin to Coinbase, and this is continuing on a daily basis. If you guys want to get updates on this and other important news, I do recommend following blocknews.com on X, and we do regular updates here as it's breaking. So with all of that happening, there's still a lot of good stuff happening, a lot of bullish stuff happening in 2024 as well. So we are seeing a lot of positives with the Bitcoin spot ETF. And like I said, there's a ton of advertisement that's going to come from these companies throughout 2024. They're all not going to just spend a ton of money on ads right off the bat. They're going to start testing the waters, and they're going to start promoting this to their existing clients as well. So over time, this will have a positive effect, but it is going to take a while for this to start picking up, in my opinion. This is not an immediate parabolic type event. So BlackRock and Fidelity are buying around 430 million of Bitcoin daily, pretty huge. BlackRock and Fidelity now both hold over $1 billion worth of Bitcoin in their ETFs, and this was just a few days ago. This is rising daily, so that's great to see. But at the same time, we're seeing this selling pressure from Grayscale and FTX selling Bitcoin as well. So not only do we have a lot of Bitcoin being taken out of supply through retail interest rising, but also the spot ETFs, but we also have Tether buying large amounts of Bitcoin regularly as well. So Tether bolsters crypto clout with massive 380 million Bitcoin purchase. So they have made quite a few purchases already. They're now over $1.5 billion worth in their reserves. And Tether aims to offset crypto volatility and maintain USDT's dollar peg amid competition from rival stablecoins like USDC. So they are buying up Bitcoin to help back USDT, which is interesting. So now having over $1.5 billion worth, they're one of the top Bitcoin holders in the world. And that makes them the 11th largest holder of Bitcoin after MicroStrategy, Tesla, public companies, and crypto exchanges, according to Bitcoin treasuries. So that's pretty interesting. I do think we're going to start seeing more companies buying up large amounts of Bitcoin like this. And the more we have like that, the better it's going to be, because like we've said, supply and demand, the more of this is being taken out of the supply, the less there is on the markets. As retail interest is rising, demand is rising, there's less available, especially with the Bitcoin halving, cutting that in half. That's also less supply in the market. So lots of bullish things happening here for a supply shock overall. At some point, once enough of these events play out over time, we've had a couple corrections into the bull market, something really bullish happens, that's when we get the parabolic move, like we see in every bull market, where Bitcoin goes parabolic in a short period of time, like we see on the charts here. The bull market back in 2017, going from around $3,000 to around $20,000 peak, and again at the last bull market around $9,000 to $10,000, peaking at $69,000. So huge returns, these parabolic moves, even for Bitcoin going up 500% in a few months. That is very possible to happen again, depending on events that do play out. We can see we are in a small correction here, but we can see we had a small correction during the parabolic move last time as well, where it did go from around 10,000 to 40,000, correction back to 32,000 before it ran up to around $50,000 to $60,000. So we are starting to see a lot of people take profit as well, which is expected with Bitcoin running up, pretty much doubling over the last few months, and with a lot of people being in profit. But the thing is, entering a bull market, people that are taking profits are generally doing so. The majority will buy back in if we do see corrections. So a lot of that money is coming back into the markets and supporting it, whereas entering a bear market, they're taking money out and not putting it back into the markets. So Bitcoin long-term holders reap profits, transferring $1 billion worth of Bitcoin to exchanges. So some long-term holders taking profit on Bitcoin, holders that have held Bitcoin for 150 days plus. That is expected though, especially with the buy the rumor, sell the news effect. Having a decent correction here is expected, but overall continuing to move upwards throughout 2024. So like I said, a lot of that money probably will flow back into the markets. Not only that, retail interest, a lot of new money coming into the markets, and a lot less supply available for those new people coming into the markets. So here's something interesting that happened in the last week. The account @Satoshi on X tweeted "Hello World." The post got 1.6 million views, but it did get community noted, stating Craig S. Wright, a person who lied under oath and lies about being Satoshi Nakamoto, reportedly controls this account, or did at one point. And then we could see after that happened, the tweet was removed. There's nothing on the account at this point. It's not following anyone. It has no info, no profile picture. It has 138,000 followers though, so at some point it may become active again for whatever reason. Craig Wright trying to pump something. Craig Wright being the founder of BSV, which is Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, claiming that he is Satoshi Nakamoto and was trying to convert people to the BSV coin instead of Bitcoin itself. So something else that just happened that I do think will end up being bullish later on. X created the X Payments account on Twitter. So no tweets on this yet, no information, but it does show they're starting to gear up for their financial features in the platform. So this is being developed into a much bigger platform than what it previously was, just a social media platform. It's now going to be a finance platform. It's sort of all-in-one app, similar to WhatsApp, but more features on top of that. Elon Musk has stated he wants X to be half the world's financial system as well. That is very ambitious, and that does mean it will have to support cryptocurrency to achieve that, especially with picking up adoption and traction. So a lot of people speculating that Dogecoin will be one of the first cryptocurrencies. Most likely that will happen. So people, of course, buying Dogecoin in speculation of something happening with that very soon. So something else very bullish, Bitcoin mining's sustainable energy usage hit a record high of 54% in 2023, which is great. I'm hoping that does continue on a steady rise more towards 60, even up to 70%. Would be very bullish because that just makes it more likely that these institutions are more likely to support and adopt and hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet. But one thing Elon Musk did state was that after Bitcoin is over 50% clean energy, that they would start accepting Bitcoin as payment again and other things. So that has been over 50% for a while now, but we haven't heard anything from Tesla or Elon Musk. So very likely at some point through 2024, we will see support from Elon and Tesla, possibly seeing X acquire a large amount of Bitcoin as well. These different things that will support cryptocurrency going up in the next bull market, especially as all this other bullish stuff is happening. Just another bullish factor. But this will also be bullish for other institutions adopting and buying Bitcoin as well, because this was a big issue during the last bull market. Tesla, after supporting Bitcoin and acquiring a large amount of Bitcoin, getting a lot of negative press because of this directly, and then being an electric car company, it made sense that they stopped supporting it overall. But that ended up hurting the market after that as well. So this was pretty funny. JP Morgan Jamie Dimon states Satoshi will come back and erase all of the Bitcoin. That's pretty goofy, but he said a few different goofy things in this interview. Pretty much just a lot of FUD, trying to spread fear on Bitcoin in general, stating a few different things here that would be really bad for Bitcoin if it did happen, but more likely than not, nothing is ever going to happen again from Satoshi. The majority of people believe that Satoshi Nakamoto is dead, and that we won't ever hear from him again. But there is a wallet that holds over 1 million Bitcoin owned by Satoshi Nakamoto, which hasn't been touched. So this video is already getting pretty long, but I do want to talk a little bit more about Google trend levels and what we can expect during the next bull market based on this information. Very useful information here I do want to talk about. I have Bitcoin, crypto, and NFTs pulled up here. And how the flow of this works and what we can expect during the next bull markets. But we can see Bitcoin retail interest has started peaking overall. Crypto, only a slight uptrend, and NFTs pretty much nothing yet. But I do want to talk a little bit more in depth about that in another video. So be sure to be subscribed and hit the bell if you do want to be notified for that upcoming video. So that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys found it useful. If you guys want to get more updates from me, I do recommend following me on X. At JRNY Crypto. There's links in the video description as well. And then also blocknews.com on Twitter. You can also check the blocknews.com website for regular updates. We pretty much have breaking news coverage here every single day. So if you guys want to get updates on breaking news as it's happened, that's a good page to follow as well. So that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.